to provide for the context, so working with Venus and Serena, you obviously you're meeting other team members.
Sure.
So I
Yeah.
think at the time, Serena's physio, it was Serena's physio at the time, and then fast forward, she's no longer working for Serena. She moved on to work with Osaka.
Gotcha.
And so she sent me a text and like, hey, this is what's going down,
Do you have any interest?
do
Right.
you have any interest,
Gotcha. Okay.
And, I think I messaged back like, hey, I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing, but, look, I'll hear you guys out, So I took a meeting with her agent, I think Stewart at the time. Oh, well, Stewart's still her agent, our partner. Took a meeting with Stewart, and I thought at the time it was just a offer that I couldn't refuse, and this is why we do what we do, like to get at that level and to be able to have that kind of exposure and work with that high level of a player. Now I will say that when I was making the decision, I went to like my SEAL Team 6, Jameer, talked to my parents, went to my team, and I was like, guys, like, what do you think, And so they really helped me during that time and supported me because I was pretty comfortable with what I was doing, and so they kind of pushed me in that uncomfort level. And mind you, that was really my first coaching role on, like, I would say the professional tour. So it wasn't like I, was working with a girl 300, got her into the top 100. I started at the top,
Right. So like, I've seen a lot of, especially on the WTA tour, a lot of hitting partners kind of transition into, being the head coach of the team. And so I'm kind of curious, is that generally the goal, or is that, I mean, I assume that's the goal, but then also like, what are kind of the dynamics within a team structure when you get to the top of the game, where you have a head coach and a physio and a hitting partner, and some people bring in like a quote unquote super coach? Like, how does that actually work out in practice?
Like, I guess to answer your question about the goal, I'm not sure if it was the goal for me because I didn't have any kind of like blueprint of like how I would navigate to being a coach. I just had to, the opportunity was there and I had to like take it. But generally speaking, I think if, you were like maybe a lower level player, maybe you weren't one of the, top players, on the ATP tour, then I think that's kind of like a great starting point, for you to kind of get in there as a hitting partner, get your feet wet, you learn, you're kind of the two-man, right? You're the coach's assistant. Maybe sometimes, you're the scout, you're the coach's ear sometimes, or you're the player's ear. But, there's a really important role. And I think I took pride in being the best two-man that I could be, I think David Witt was coaching Venus at the time, so learned a lot from him, learned a lot from V, just how she went about things. And so that was kind of my start of my journey. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
No, you did. You did.
Okay.
And then, like, just kind of, I guess, more specifically, like, then within the team confines, when you have these different people around the player, specifically on court, like, how did your situation with V vary from like when you became the, Naomi's coach, and did she have a hitting partner at that time as well?
Yeah. So, I think there was a huge contrast like between Venus and Naomi. I think Venus was at the stage in her career where she was, she knew what she needed exactly.
Right, yeah.
So the entourage is a lot smaller and matched personality. So I think for her it was a coach, hitting partner, and maybe her assistant. At the time. So very small team. Whereas with Osaka, I think. If you had to think about buckets, we had physio, trainer, and at the time I was the hitting partner and coach, and what you'll find on the WTA sometimes is the girls tend to like to hit with the hitting partner a lot, I personally think they should hit with other girls. I think most of the time when you're at home, of course, do your work with your hitting partner, but you kind of need to get in there, and like feel that other girl's ball,
Yeah.
when you get to the tournaments, it's about like, basically you gotta play points, like, it's like everything's kind of like already worked out, to the point where, you're not really, yes, at a grand slam, you're still, like you're running a different race there. You're more specific and you're trying to like do everything perfect there. But you know, I feel like some of the other tournaments, it's okay to hit with some of the other girls, you know.
Yeah. Wouldn't you say, Jermaine? And I noticed this when I was out there I had a player that got top 50, trained with us for a long time in my academy. I felt like they were always looking to play with the guys. And only in a last resort would they hit with one of the other girls if they both needed some point play. Where the guys are always looking to hit with each other. I mean, you'll go to the board there at the Open and you'll see 5, 6, 7 guys have looking, you know what I mean, for a hit, you know, at 10 o'clock, you know what I mean? Or, you know, and you're almost happy to get a fresh stick out there to hit some balls with. And so I don't know if that's something that is that still the case? This was some years ago when I was on the tour, but is it still kind of it seemed like that was just kind of the way it was. The girls always want to hit with the guys. The guys love hitting, and guys weren't too, unless they were younger or juniors, they weren't too keen on hitting with a lot of the ladies. Obviously, serves weren't as big and other things, but it seemed like it was almost weird how much the guys preferred it with each other more than anything else. And the girls were more, hit my coach, no, I'm good. I got my coach, I'm here. Almost this nice little bubble, you know what I mean, that they like to kind of protect themselves. And is that what you saw?
Yeah, so I think with the guys, like you said, a hit is a hit, right? I think with the girls now, you're starting to see like a lot more girls are hitting with other girls. They get it. You know, we need to like scrimmage, see different game styles, play points. You know, I think there was an era in tennis, you know, when you think about Venus, Serena, Sharapova, I think, you know, they were creating like that unfamiliarity, right? Like it was a form of intimidation, I thought, you know. So it's like, this is our team. When we come, we're coming to do business. We're not coming here to socialize, be friends.
Right.
You know, so I think back then it was more of a sense of like, okay, like we don't want you to know anything that's going on with our operation. You know, we're here what we need to do, you know. Whereas now the girls are way more open to hitting with each other, you know. So it's changed a lot.